One night, engineer Fred Wooden had stopped his freight train at Salisbury, Connecticut, near the New York State border, waiting for a westbound train to pass. While waiting, he was fussing over his locomotive, oiling it, tending to it, when he noticed there was blood on its driver wheels. Wooden notified the dispatcher in Hartford, explaining that he could not recall seeing or hitting any object on the tracks that would put blood on his drivers. The year being 1910, Wooden's headlights were likely to be lighted with oil, allowing him only an indistinct view from his cab into the night. The dispatcher issued an order to the next train, which was to take the same route that Wooden's train had just taken, which was from Poughkeepsie eastward into Connecticut. The next train heading east was a work train, and its conductor was none other than Nate Blodgett. Born in 1886, Nate Blodgett grew up near Waterbury, Connecticut. Nate followed in the heels of his father, also a railroad man. Nate worked his way up through the ranks from the age of 20 in 1906, first as a freight handler, then a brakeman, and on to his dream job, a conductor, by age 23 in 1909. So, Nate was a mere 24 when the story unfolded. Now back to the tale. He and his crew were to run the heavy train slowly and watch for whatever could have put blood on Wooden's driving wheels. When Blodgett's train was approaching Salt Point, New York, Blodgett saw, quote-unquote, an object looking like a bundle of clothes. Blodgett and his crew stepped off their train. They examined this bundle. They decided it contained a human body, a headless and footless one to boot. The crew searched further along the tracks. They found a head propped up on its neck against the telegraph pole, quote-unquote. One of the crew, as Blodgett remembered it, bravely picked up the head by the hair and peered at the face. Nobody I knew, the crewman said, and put the head back down on the ground. Now, Central New England rules required the crew to report finding a human body, which meant they had to take their train to the Salt Point station to telegraph their report. The rules also required, however, that someone stay with the body until a coroner arrived. Conductor Blodgett designated the crewman who had, quote, so bravely picked up the head, end quote, to stay with the body. However, when the crewman faced staying with the body alone, he, quote unquote, put up such a squawk that Blodgett designated a second crewman to keep him company. Blodgett's train went on to Salt Point, and as it was too early for anyone to be on duty at the station, Blodgett went to the station agent's house. Blodgett persuaded him to go to the station to telegraph to the dispatcher in Hartford, explaining what Blodgett's crew had found. Eventually, investigators discovered the deceased was John Mackessey, a laborer from Poughkeepsie, New York. The Central New England had hired him to help build a water tower at Stanfordville. When he first came to work, he was intoxicated, and as the day wore on, he became more so. Before the day was over, he had been fired. To get home, Mackessey had taken a Central New England passenger train from the Stanfordville station. However, because he had no money to pay his fare, the conductor firmly put him off the train at the next stop, which was Clinton Corners. Then, as Blodgett figured it out later, Mackessey must have set out to walk to Poughkeepsie, quote unquote. He had walked about 3 miles to near Salt Point when, getting tired, he had laid down on the tracks. Whether intentionally or in an alcoholic stupor, he had put his head on one rail and his feet on the other. Wooden's freight train had put an end to John Mackessey's career. Fact or fiction? This is fact. It's been bore down through the centuries, through the years, through the decades, from railroad man to railroad man. But Nate Blodgett remembered it, Nate Blodgett recounted it, and there are records. Hyperbole exists, however, in the intentional or unintentional happenstance of the occasion. Let's go find the rough area where we suppose the gruesome end to John may have occurred. Stay with us. This is the rock cut right here, just north of the Stanfordville station. Station's up there. On the left is an old freight house, and this is the bed right here. Stanfordville, New York. There it is. It's part of an old mill right here on the rail bed. Stanfordville, New York.
I can just see it.
Nice old iron railing, replaced by this modern day guardrail. There's the mill building. A couple of series of dams here. I'll bring you up where the big dam was, where the mill was. Don't jump, partner.
I don't see it here yet. I didn't see it here.
Right down there is the station. And there's the rock cut.
I'm trying to look for
Stanfordville. Mill. Rail bed. There's a culvert right there where this little small stream came under. And way over yonder is the dam where the mill pond was. And the creamery was right up top. Let's go check that out. One can only wonder. We're on Creamery Road. This is what's left of some of the creamery that was here. They recently, in the last, I would say within the last 10 years, tore down the majority of the building that was here. And what was here was the Borden's Creamery. As you can read. Once again, we touch on good old Gail Borden from Wassaic and Walden. Rail line right through here. Got a Mack R model, got an auto car, got a newer Volvo. The evolution of trucks on the railroad bed. Stanfordville Station. Private home. Respect their privacy. Freight house behind it. Station, freight house, rail bed. Water towers up on the hill. These are also rail buildings here. These were part of the lumber yard that was here. I featured these in a few other videos. Got that nice rake building there and the boxcar door. And this was the bed right out in front of the station. This is the scenes of the crime here, Stanfordville, where John Mackessey was drunk, working right around here, got put on a train and got sent back this way to Clinton Corners. Let's go check out Clinton Corners. We're back, we're right here. We're in Willowbrook. This was the site of the Willowbrook station. Line came right here, crossed the road, went on down into Clinton Corners. I bet you some old trainmen actually stopped and sat right there on that stone. Had a smoke. What do you think? There he goes. We're on Patricia Lane, just before Upton Lake. By John. He's got perhaps moments or hours left on this earth, southbound to Clinton Corners. Let's go. Yonder goes the train on the east shore of Upton Lake. Oh, Mr. Finger. Perhaps John had one moment of sanity and sobriety where he woke up, came to, and said, wow, what a beautiful body of water. And it is indeed a beautiful body of water. And I'll tell you this much. Right there is where the ice house conveyor system went down into the lake. There was a spur right there that came off the line and fed the ice house, which is right there. Approaching Clinton Corners from Upton Lake. Driving on ahead. This is the route John would have been on in his drunken stupor. Moments away from Clinton Corners. He was dropped off due to, as they said, lack of fare. Or was he being paid on the train? One will never know. $19.12 looks like. Here's the other side. $19.12. The upgraded one. Got the iron, the big thick 3/4 1 inch thick iron. Culvert itself with concrete. That's where we just came from, Stanfordville, Upton Lake. And right down there, Clinton Corners. Unmarked graves here at Quaker Meeting House in Clinton Corners. It's the stone building up there. Perhaps John gave a nod of his hat as he passed on the rail line to the folks planted here. This is Clinton Rec Park here. Saw Point Turnpike. Rail bed came right across Saw Point right here. Came right down this little miniature driveway here at the head of the park. We're walking on the rail bed now. John may have walked this very trail right here, this very path. They got a gate across so nobody drives into the brook. We'll go down and take a peek. At the underbelly of the bridge. Right here. So John walked from Clinton Corners. He walked from Clinton Corners on down towards Salt Point. He was walking this way. Now you see those piers out there? And there's one left right there. There was a V here that directed the water out that way. I remember those piers when I was a kid. They're all rotted now. There's another one over there. Let's go down Salt Point. That's the rail bed right there. Heading to Salt Point through the old Ponderosa Ranch. And right up here, right about where those headlights are, that car crosses Salt Point Turnpike. Heading north, goes on up in to Clinton Corners, where we just were. He walked from the Clinton Corners train station all the way down to Salt Point, beyond Salt Point. Let's go. So we've made it down as far as Salt Point. Just about picking up the rail bed here now. Got a couple of automotive shops. This was the yard area here of Salt Point, New York, Mackessey and Eastern. And we're just about down to the road gradient right now. This is the Salt Point Firehouse of the Pleasant Valley Fire District. And old John would have been walking, still walking, this way. There it is. There's the finger. This way. It goes out behind that yellow house. Let's go a little bit farther south. Old Rimph Road and Salt Point Turnpike. This is Salt Point Turnpike. So, watch out, Russ. The rail line crosses Salt Point Turnpike. Right about here at Rimph Road, continues on south to Poughkeepsie that way. Poughkeepsie in Connecticut is that way. Poughkeepsie and Eastern is right here. Right on up there, that's northbound North Avenue from Pleasant Valley, which is behind me, to Salt Point, which is in front of me. Right up there in the field is the second of two crossings where the two lines crossed over top of each other. First one is McIntyre up north of Stanfordville. The second one is right here north of Pleasant Valley, south of Salt Point. So old John could have been found anywhere by Nate Blodgett. South of where we were by the Salt Point Firehouse, south of there, anywhere here. Nobody knows. John's gone and Nate is gone. That's about it. Old Nate found John. He was over there. He was over there. And the rest of them was right there in the middle of the tracks. Sad ending for a sad life.